This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
My God, that's the Fourth and Frames music. Welcome in, everybody. Tonight we are going to be breaking down our plays and fades, or as we call them around here, our smash or pass calls for Week 16. And if you're joining us live on YouTube, we'll be answering your questions as well. So feel free to get those dropped in the chat, and we will get to those as soon as we can. And if you are here with us on YouTube and you want to support our content, the best thing you can do is to start by liking this video and then go ahead and subscribe to the Fantasy and Frame YouTube channel to catch us anytime a new pod or short form video from us drops. And then, of course, you can always search for all of our podcasts here at Fantasy and Frames by name on your preferred podcast platform. So for us, make sure to check out the Fourth and Frames podcast. And last but not least, make sure to go over to the website, fantasyandframes.com. We've got our weekly rankings for both redraft and IDP, as well as our staff dynasty rankings, and then all of our latest articles from plays and fades to waiver wire to trends, everything that you need to set yourself up for success here as we come down the stretch of the fantasy season. And while the fantasy season is still alive, the NFL season for some of us on the screen is basically null and void. I can't relate, but fellas, other than that, Nate, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. Welcome everybody in the chat. It is it's an eventful week. I played against you in our Fourth and Frames league. I had to mortgage the future because my starting quarterback unfortunately has an ACL that is no longer intact, or was no longer intact. Now it is, but I
saw that. Yeah,
the ACL or me mortgage the. Next year.
Mortgage. How's it feel to know that your running back that you mortgaged the future for may not even play this week?
He had a full practice today.
Did he really? Okay.
Do your research before you start trying to throw some shade.
Well, speaking of research, what is Aiden possibly talking about when he says, "Hello, Nate, how's your night going on this lovely December night?" Did something happen? Did something bad happen this past weekend that I'm not aware of?
I don't know if it's bad. I mean, I guess it wasn't great, but as Ted Lasso said, goldfish, be a goldfish. It happened. It's over. It's done. I don't lament. I have a life outside of, watching the Chiefs go 5-6 years in a row making the Super Bowl. Every now and then we deserve to have an actual postseason where I can watch football and not be vested. I can be rooting for the Commanders. Nope, can't be rooting for the.
You can do that. There's something wrong. You can do that. That's fine.
Yeah, I could. No,
well, all is good. I thought that was a Raiders hat back in the studio.
It is a Raiders hat.
Okay.
It's sitting next to me. My hair was up.
Which, by the way, I want to know. So, first of all, Crypto Life Bags here has been a recent person coming on all our shows lately, and so he's been a great supporter of us here. But I want to know what the hell gives Drew the swag, because he says, "Hi, Jorge. Hi, Nate. Hi, Kyle. What's up, Drew? How come it's what's up? How come the rest of us didn't get what's up? I don't understand that one. But it's all right.
He gave all you guys nice cordial handshakes, and then he gave me a dap up. So I appreciate
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
It's Allen versus Stafford for MVP right now. Convince me why. Josh Allen had 2 good weeks, and now all of a sudden he needs to be in the MVP conversation. What are we doing here? It's Matthew Stafford is the MVP conversation.
Don't worry.
That is the MVP conversation. I know there needs to be a second person in it. People wanted it to be Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the year, and then they wanted it to be Drake May, and now Drake May started to tell off a little bit. So now that it needs to be Josh Allen. It's Matthew Stafford, people. Just hop on, enjoy the ride, and let's just have some fun with it. But Nate, I mean, the season might not be going the way that you hope for your Chiefs, but you will at least get to enjoy a higher draft pick than usual. Something that our friend Kyle here is no stranger to by any means. So Kyle, how are you doing tonight, man?
Thank you for that intro, Drew. Really
Shots
appreciate
fired.
that. I'm doing great. I'm going to go ahead and say it before you do, Drew. I was eliminated there in the Fantasy and Frames listener group.
Oh, yeah.
I was beat, and Drew moves on. I think he had the bye week, so he holds on to that. But I did, fortunately enough, got to beat Jorge. I mean, I got to crush Jorge in our Fantasy and Frames league. That was pretty nice. So I'm coming for you, Drew. I'm getting my revenge in that league if you're still around.
You know what? This is an MVP. That's an MVP race that I can get behind. Yeah. what Myles Garrett is doing right now, I mean, he's insane. Jorge, speaking of Myles Garrett, you just got done talking about some IDP fantasy for week 16 in the previous show, but now that you're on the offensive side with us, we're glad to have you. You've already crushed it, smash your pass earlier this year, so it's only right before the season's over, now that we're at the most important part of the season, that we bring you back to do it all over again. How you doing tonight?
Dude, I'm doing great. It's been a while since I've been live on the show and hearing that oh so familiar music for Fourth and Frames, and talking with you, with Nate, with Kyle. All that's missing is Rhett, and he'll be back next week, I believe. But hope he's doing well tonight. And it's a blast. Second round of the fantasy football playoffs. For me, I think is the most stressful out of the 3 weeks because you want to get to that championship game, right? Once you're in championship week, it's kind of like, all right, God, take the wheel. Like there's nothing more I can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's kind of like, all right, I got to make it to there. Then the chips fall where they may. So hopefully we give everybody here tonight who's watching and goes back and rewatches it and leaves comments or messages us on Twitter, good information to get them to the next round.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Aiden, you are not wrong. You're wrong about one thing. And that's me going down in the listener league. But it's going to be a fun week in the fantasy and frames world for me. I've got me and Nate are facing off in the Dynasty League, and then me and Aiden are facing off in the Fourth and Frames redraft league. Stop doing that.
It says right now. I
need you to do what Aiden's doing. I need you to talk shit to me. Tell me I'm going down. Tell me you got this in the bag. Stop doing the reverse psychology good guy.
Aiden's a child.
I know you don't mean it.
Man, I'm over 40. I know these games.
Which, by the way, I forgot to mention. Sorry for interrupting, but how did we do, Nate, in the IDP only Dynasty League? I can't remember who won that matchup in the playoffs this past. Do you remember who?
You're lucky if I even set a lineup, Jorge. I mean, I coasted into the playoffs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And just didn't even realize I was playing. I was so focused on advancing in the Kings Classic, which I'm going to go on a soapbox real quick because what grinds my gears? This really pisses me off so much. So in the Snake League, I was playing Ian Hartitz last week, and I advanced. Thank you to Kyle Pitts. The standing ovation that he gave Kyle Pitts' pick at the draft really helped out. Well, week 2 comes along, and I have a lot of moves to make. I've already told these guys, so I'll keep it short and sweet. It's gross in that league, 14 teams, 3 flex. You're going for anybody and everybody that's actually going to be on the field. Matthew Golden was available, and I saw the news with Christian Watson, thought, you know what, that could be a nice, solid pickup just in case. I had $6 fab dollars. I put my $6 in. Matthew Golden was mine, if and only if Matt Donnelly, Matt, I'm going to tag you at some point, so you have to go back and watch this. Matt Donnelly fucking picked up Matthew Golden for $20, and Matt Donnelly's not in the playoffs in that league.
Ooh.
And I know that you say you like people. If you're playing, I'm playing for last place. I don't care. I'm picking up waivers. I hate it. I think it's stupid. Don't do it. If you're not in the playoffs, you shouldn't be making waivers, especially fab wise. But I think that I'm going to take a step back just because I realized that it was probably by accident. In the other league, since there's 2, Snake and Auction, he is in the playoffs in the other one. And I'm hoping it was just an error where he accidentally picked up Golden in the wrong league and cost me from picking him up. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. It's Matthew Golden, let's be honest. That's how gross this league is when I'm disappointed I got Audric Estime instead of Matthew Golden. But that's it. Soapbox over. Let's continue.
Well, speaking of...
it's a very big deal. And I'm going to tell you toward the end of the show why it's a big deal.
Yeah, Nikki's on my side.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of gross things to talk about, Nikki, welcome back to the show. Superflex, pick one: Rivers, Ward, Minshew.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Good.
Kyle, answer this one. What's the answer here?
Oh wow. I guess I'll go Phillip Rivers. I can't trust Minshew.
No, you can't.
And
Minshew,
Rashi Rice may not even play.
correct.
Right,
Exactly. It's
So it's really between Rivers and Ward. I mean,
I know you guys just said you can't trust Minshew. Minshew's the guy I have ranked highest. I've got
do
Minshew
too.
at
bad.
I've got Minshew at 24, and then I've got Rivers at 29 and Ward at 30.
Who has
I
the
don't think
best weapons?
I don't think there's any way you can play Ward against Kansas City. Like there's no way. And then Phillip Rivers, San Francisco's defense hasn't been a world beat or anything like that, but like we watched Phillip Rivers last week, right?
Yeah.
Like we all saw it. Like it's a cool story and everything, but like he looked his
old.
age.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's a very this is a super flex question if I've ever seen one. But I would go Minshew if it was me.
I'm right there with you. They have the best weapons on offense as opposed to Phillip Rivers, who can't get the ball to his best weapons. So
They should have the best weapons. And that's where I debate is, like Kyle said, if there's no Rashee Rice, while yes, having Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, maybe add in a couple other pieces if Tyquan Thornton's healthy, et cetera. But I think I go Minshew, Ward, then Rivers for myself in that order. And it's gross altogether. Sorry, Nikki.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is gross altogether, no doubt about that. I can appreciate crypto. I'm also in love with Coco. I'm a Coke head. Sign me up. Love Jalen Coker. Let's see. Do we have any other questions before we get into Smash or Pass?
we do not currently.
Okay, cool. All right. We appreciate you guys hanging out in the chat. Please keep the comments flowing. If you have questions, drop those. But even if you don't have questions, just talk to each other in the chat, talk to us in the chat, and we'll talk back. But for now, we're going to get into Smash or Pass for week 16. And so before we do that, let's just do a quick check on how we're doing so far this year, because we believe in accountability on this show. We're going to let you guys know how our takes have done. We're not going to make takes and then run and hide. So last week, Nate went, and we are including our new segment, Pop or Flop, which is basically just like, trying to find an upside play. We did include that for the first time this year as well. So last week, Nate went 1 for 3 on the week. He's still at a solid 47% on the year. Kyle ducked us last week. He couldn't be here, but he's still sitting at 50% on the season. I ended up going 2 for 3 last week, 59% on the year. And then Rhett, he wasn't able to be here tonight. The local New Orleans, Louisiana sports scene needed his services tonight, unfortunately. But the dude just keeps hitting. He went 2 for 3 last week. He's now at 77% on the season. We should have been having him do Smash or Pass all year, because since he started doing this a few weeks ago, he has been absolutely crushing. I think that's something like 10 for 14 or 10 for 13 on the year now. So Rhett, hats off to you, man. You have been absolutely crushing it. But now for this week, we're going to start with our Smash call. So for a Smash call, we're looking at players that are outside of the top 12 quarterbacks, outside of the top 15 running backs, top 20 receivers, or the top 10 tight ends in the Fantasy Pros Week 16 expert consensus ranking. So we're trying to stay away from those obvious guys that you want to start that are, no doubt set it and forget it in your lineup. We're trying to look at some people that you might be struggling to decide on for the week. So Jorge, you're the guest here. We have manners on the show. And so as the guest, we're going to let you kick things off and tell us who your smash play is for week 16.
Manners on a show. I'm not used to that being on Shoot the Gap. I have to wear a suit maybe next time I show up here. I'm going to go with the ECR wide receiver 22, Ladd McConkey, against the Dallas Cowboys. To say that his season has been up and down would be a serious understatement, considering expectations that a lot of us had following his rookie year. Now, I will say, since week 12, Dallas has allowed the third most receiving yards and fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Since that time, amongst all wide receivers in the NFL, he's 12th in red zone targets, 5th in end zone targets, 2nd in touchdowns, and 13th in targets overall. He leads the Chargers wide receivers in routes run and expected fantasy points per game. And what really makes this an advantageous matchup here is that he would be lining up against one of two people. Deron Bland, who since week 12 is the slot cornerback 10 in passing yards allowed. Now, he has been dealing with a foot injury since this past week. He has not practiced. If he does not go, Reddy Stewart will be filling in for him and has filled in for him in recent weeks. He's even more of a liability in coverage. So this is definitely a situation where, and you'll be hearing the Chargers be a theme of mine throughout the show. Ladd McConkey, again, time, space, and place, just like in life. That's the same thing when it comes to fantasy football. He finds himself in the right scenario in all three. So give me Ladd McConkey with confidence, with definitely having the upside for wide receiver 1 numbers against Dallas this week.
I like it. He's due for a bounce back for sure. And there is no better get right secondary to play against than the one that he is lined up against this week. So I like that a lot. Hopefully he can deliver in the big week for fantasy managers. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in positions where they felt like Ladd would be a set it and forget it, no doubter. And that just hasn't been the case here recently. So hopefully that gives you guys the confidence you need to put Ladd in your lineup this week. Nate, this guy that you're about to talk about, it seems like he either has crushed your lineup or just absolutely smashed. He has truly been either a smash or a pass, one way or the other. There really hasn't been an in-between for him this year. So talk to us a little bit. Tell us why you think DJ Moore is in for a smash week this week.
Yeah, you were even being a little generous because it's when 3 of 14 weeks you finish as a top 10, and every other week outside you finish outside of the wide receiver 29 conversation. There's not much hope for many with DJ Moore, rightfully so. I can understand that he probably hasn't been in many of our lineups for quite some time. Now, positively speaking, over the last 4 weeks, he's had 2 top 7 finishes. 2 of those aforementioned 3 top 10s have happened in the last month. Unfortunately, sandwiched in between those 2 number 7 overall has been a wide receiver 64 and a wide receiver 99 finish. The opportunity this week is, let's be fair, the only reason why I think I'm really, really confident in DJ Moore being in my lineup this week. Rome Odunze, Luther Burden both did not practice both yesterday and today. Matchup against Green Bay is not one that I typically throughout the season would have addressed and said, let's focus on the Green Bay Packers secondary. But over the last month, the same time that DJ Moore, twice out of the last 4, has been productive, the Green Bay Packers have allowed the 6th most points to the wide receiver position. So kind of like, hey, DJ Moore's trending in the right direction, mostly because of injury, only because of injury, most likely. And Green Bay's trending in the opposite direction. No Micah Parsons, guess what? In that kind of weird, no top tier pass rush, the secondary then starts giving up some more points. But it is. There's nothing positive. If I want to go in now and look at, Drew Scott's wide receiver quarterback matchups on the week, I would look at that and I would say, hey, he's telling me that against man and zone, DJ Moore is, atrocious. I hate to say that I don't care because that's a terrible way to look at it. But Jorge, what was the word what did you just say? Time, space, and place. He'll have plenty of time on the field. He's in the right place, which is with 2 of his wide receivers on the sideline, and the space will be hopefully the distance between him and Caleb of about 6 yards, where he can catch 8 or 9 easy passes and not have to worry about Caleb Williams trying to go downfield and the inaccuracy coming back. So I like DJ Moore. He's the ECR wide receiver 29, I believe. I should have it 33 actually. So it shouldn't take much for many to throw him into your wide receiver 3, even your flex spot, and produce enough value to be valuable.
Yeah, it's if both Odunze and Burden miss, I think at that point it's a no-brainer. But even if one of or Dunze or Burton is out, I still think DJ Moore could be a strong play this week. And to your point, that Green Bay secondary that we have been a little bit scared off of, I guess, for some parts of this year, we'll kind of get to see if the secondary has truly been that good, or if the pass rush was kind of covering up some flaws that they might have there in the secondary. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out over the next few weeks. Kyle, you're up, man. You've got one of the waiver wire hotness for this week. Looks like you feel like that fantasy managers that were able to get Michael Carter off waivers should feel comfortable plugging him right into their starting lineups for this week.
Yeah, I really like Michael Carter at running back 28, ECR running back 28. It feels low knowing that he's going to be involved in this offense now with him and Emari Demercado being really the only true options going forward, with Bam Knight now out for the season. And the way I see this is Michael Carter is the every down back, and Demercado at best is the receiving back. When you look at the usage from week 5, when Trey Benson was out in the lineup on IR, Michael Carter owned the lion's share with 47.6% snap share. Bam Knight was actually second, and Demercado was third with only a 23.9% snap share. Fast forward now to last week, when Bam Knight went down on his first carry. Who did they turn to? Michael Carter. Not only did he dominate the snaps, he dominated the touches. He rushed the ball 14 times, averaging 4 yards per carry, caught 4 balls as well for another 38 yards. If math serves me correct, that's just under 100 scrimmage yards. He also ran 27 routes to Demercado's 5. And Demercado really was non-existent in that game last week. He only had 1 carry. Now, I'm not saying Demercado will continue to have an 11% snap share, but I do think that it's telling that Michael Carter is the running back to have here in this backfield and can be inserted into your lineups as a low-end RB2 with a chance to pop against Atlanta, which, by the way, was an excellent waiver wire pickup. If you were able to read Aiden Weingarter's weekly waiver wire article at fantasyandframes.com, you would have seen him at the very top of the list for running backs. And not for nothing, I too as well recommended him on the waiver wire watch party, which you could tune into every Monday night during the first half of the Monday night game starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. So, yeah, a little double plug there for you, Jorge. But, yeah, just click subscribe, Fantasy and Frames, and you'll get all of our notifications and all of our great shows.
Company man, Kyle. Company man. Love it. Love it.
It's just spoken like a true pro. All right, so I'm going to keep things rolling on the running back side of things. And it's kind of a two-parter because Woody Marks is the guy I wanted to have for my smash call this week, but it's kind of up in the air on if he's going to play or not. And so I'm basically telling you, if Woody Marks' ankle injury keeps him from playing this week, you should play Jawar Jordan against the Raiders. If Woody Marks is active, you should play Marks against the Raiders. The main theme is that you want to start whoever ends up being the starting running back for the Texans this week, because it doesn't get much sweeter than the matchup they've got against Vegas. Over the last 5 weeks, the Raiders have been the 3rd best matchup for running backs based on schedule-adjusted fantasy points given up to the position. They're giving up just over 100 rushing yards per game on the season, which is the 12th most, and I believe that they've given up the 2nd or 3rd most rushing yards per game over the last 3 weeks, and they're also giving up the 3rd most rushing touchdowns per game as well. And Marks had taken over this backfield prior to his ankle injury, so if he's active, you should be starting him. Prior to leaving the game early last week, he had at least 16 carries in 4 straight games, and there should be plenty of opportunities to go around in this game. I'm fully expecting the Texans to control this one from start to finish, and so I think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for the Texans to want to milk the clock, run this thing down, and so whoever ends up being that lead runner, whether it be Marks or Jordan, I think should be in for a solid day. And Houston showed us that if Marks isn't ready to go, and I'm also assuming that Nick Chubb will probably be inactive for this one once again as well, but they showed us that whenever Marks went down, they just gave the backfield to Jordan. He was 15 carries, 101 yards, and he had a couple receptions. He was the guy at that point. And now maybe if Chubb is active, he still works in there as well. But I think we've seen enough Nick Chubb to see that he's not the Nick Chubb that we used to know and love, and Jordan showed some pretty decent explosiveness whenever he was in there in that spot start last week. So now that was a bad Cardinals run defense that Jordan got to beat up on. But the good news is that they've got another bad run defense to beat up on again this week. So You'll need to monitor practice reports to see who the Texans starting running back is going to be this week. But my message will be the same regardless of who it is, and that's that one of Woody Marks or Jordan is going to be a smash play against the Raiders this week.
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I would like.
So now that we made it through our. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just say I wish that some of these decisions weren't. We could get another couple days of practice in to really see, because I think that's going to be the telltale sign, especially for that running back room.
So shall we go through some of the questions we got in the chat, Drew?
Yep. Let's hit up some questions.
All right, Galaxy Pickers, what's up? Corum over Woody. My pivot off Woody is Diggs, and have to make that choice tomorrow, obviously, with Corum in Seattle on Thursday Night Football. The Seahawks and Rams, rather, on Thursday Night Football.
Okay. So it's basically pivot to Corum right now or wait for Woody this weekend. And then if he's inactive, then pivot to Diggs. I'm assuming that means that Jordan was claimed by somebody else on waivers or isn't on waivers. If Jordan is still out there, I would tell you go pick up Jordan, and then just if Woody is active, you play him. If he's not, you put Jordan in. But if that's not an option, if it's me, I think that I'm holding off and hoping for Woody Marks to play, and then if he's not playing, I'll put in Diggs. I know Corum has had some pretty solid games recently. He is still the number 2 running back, or the 1B, however you want to look at it. And over the last 5 weeks, the Seahawks have been the toughest matchup for fantasy running backs based on schedule-adjusted fantasy points given up to the position. They're just not a running game that you want to go up against. Now, on the flip side of that, the Rams have had the most efficient running game on the season. So it's one of those, what's the saying, immovable force object thing, that whole thing. It's that whole thing. It's one of those situations this weekend. But if it was the starting running back for the Rams, I'd feel a lot better. But I don't want to play the 1B or the number 2 option in that Rams backfield against such a tough run defense. So I think I would wait for Woody and then pivot to Diggs if it was me.
Yeah,
Drew,
I
you guys
think
disagree with that?
No. I was gonna say no. I think you're giving the right advice here, because from what I can tell, they said that Woody Marks was able to return to the game, but Coach DeMeco Ryans chose not to bring him back. But he did say he was feeling like he could come back, so that kind of tells me that he'll probably play this week.
I like to think so too. It's hard. It's always hard to know if that's coach speak or not. It's easy to say that once he doesn't come back in. And granted, it made sense why he didn't. I mean, the Texans had that game under control. So, but yeah, I have hopes that Marks will be fine for this week as well.
Yeah, if it was just Kyron, or it was just Corum in that backfield, I'd feel a lot better about Corum in this situation, just because of his 83.3% success rate running the ball. But now you're splitting touches against a tough defense, whereas Woody, is not competing for rushing attempts if he's healthy and good to go. So obviously the easier matchup between the two. So good call there, Drew.
Yeah, if there was no Kyron Williams, I think I would have Corum as high as probably top.
He'd be a top 10 guy.
Well, yeah, top 10. Yeah, I really think that's the best. He's by far, I still feel this way. I think he's the best handcuff you could have in the NFL, just because we know McVay would 100% give him probably 100% of the workload. And that's exactly what you'd want, not the next guy up to then be a coin flip between the third back and that individual to get split carries. Next question.
Yeah. Let's go to the next question. Sorry, let me pull it up really quickly. All right. 12-man PPR, start who? 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 1 flex. Let's start with the quarterback, first of all. So Brock Purdy, J.J. McCarthy, Jacoby Brissett. I'm going McCarthy. I just love this situation versus the Giants. Aiden wrote in his article over at Fantasy and Frames, like, he just thrives against good matchups against bad teams. Now, that being the case, I do expect there to be a lot more pressure applied to McCarthy than you saw with Dallas last week. Brissett, will he be able to stay on the ground, off of the ground long enough to be making plays? we were talking on Shoot the Gap last hour. Since week 12, he's been sacked 13 times. That is ridiculous. And so this defensive matchup here for Arizona with Atlanta poses a serious situation here. But I'm going with McCarthy because even though there is the the defensive edge rushers coming after his mobility and running the ball kind of helps get away from that a little bit.
Trivia question: in Jacoby Brissett's 10 starts this season, how many QB1 finishes has he had?
10.
All of
10.
them.
Correct.
Every single one.
And I will say, when I look at matchups that he's had, I see Green Bay and their pass rush that he's went against. I see the aforementioned Seahawks, which is not the best pass rush, but
Houston's the most telling matchup out of all.
Houston is the most telling, which is
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Rams are a bad kind of barometer for that as well. So I'm not saying that JJ McCarthy is not a sneaky, decent matchup, but I'm leaning Jacoby Brissett myself. I know Drew wants to pick up. Well, we won't say that because someone could be listening that might be in your league that might want to play. Keep that on the hush hush. We don't want Matt Donnelly types coming out picking up your players.
That's right.
That's right.
Matt,
dead.
So I mean, to your point, Nate, and to kind of build off what Jorge was saying, Atlanta does have a tough pass rush, but they have been getting beat up in the secondary lately. Over the last 5 weeks, they've been the third best matchup for fantasy quarterbacks based on schedule-adjusted fantasy points given up to the position. And look, Brissett might get knocked on his ass a few times, but at the end of the day, I don't care whenever Arizona's letting him throw the ball 40-plus times every single week. Like they're always playing catch up. They're always asking Brissett to chuck it over and over. So honestly, for me, this question is between Purdy and Brissett, and I've got them damn near back to back. But I think I would lean Brissett just because the matchup against Atlanta has been better compared to the one against Indy. But so I would go Jacoby there, quarterback.
If you go to the next section of the question at the running back position, I think that, one of the two scenarios, so it's CMC, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, Chris Rodriguez. CMC is obviously in. Rodriguez, is he going to be back this week, Jorge?
No, I think it's still a questionable tag, so we don't know yet whether he is going to be back.
So then I think as our second option collectively, Aaron Jones or Kenneth Walker in this scenario, I think is the only other running back, at least that I would consider.
It's got to be Aaron Jones.
I have it as well. I have Jones over Walker. I do have him decently close, so I'm not too torn up if you want one way or the other. Is anybody leaning Kenneth Walker more so than Aaron Jones by a significant margin, or are we all leaning that we're going to exploit the New York Giants run D and just keep it simple, stupid?
Yeah.
It's Aaron Jones. Walker and Charbonnet, they basically split the difference in fantasy points. So I'm no, thank you.
If you move on to the wide receiver position, we need 2, maybe 3 if we consider a flex here between Chris Olave, Stephon Diggs, Jawan Jennings, Terry F1 McLaurin, and Chris Godwin. Fun little fact about Jawan Jennings, by the way. Do you guys believe in the old, if a player is going for a specific bonus, that the team might be more inclined to get them the ball? Because if that's the case, Jawan Jennings has a huge week ahead of him for potential bonuses. Does that go into your decisions when it comes to something like this? Because I can tell you right now, it 100% goes into my decision when it's close.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, Stephon Diggs is closing in on his incentives as well. So they could be targeting him as well, if that tells you anything. So I like what you said there. I would go Diggs and Jennings as well.
It depends how stingy the owner is. If it was Daniel Snyder, I'd be like, no, that ain't happening.
San Francisco, I don't think, can afford to have players leave when their depth chart is already scratching the bottom of the barrel when it comes to healthy bodies on the field. I think you want to keep Jawan Jennings happy, but I don't know. Would you have Olave or McLaurin as your flex?
Olave would be my wide receiver 1 out of this group. He's the guy that I've got ranked the highest. He's the only guy inside my top 12 out of this group. I've got it Olave at I believe 11, if I remember correctly. And then I've got Juwan Jennings at 15 and Terry McLaurin at 20. So those would be my top 3 choices. So I would have Olave and Juwan Jennings and Terry McLaurin filling out the 2 wide receiver spots and the flex spot. And then I've got Godwin and Diggs several spots behind those guys. So those would be my top 3. I would go Olave, Jennings, and Terry McLaurin.
All right, I think we're in agreement there.
And then one more tight end he needs.
And a defense.
Waller in a defense, yeah. Waller, Ferguson.
Oh.
I'm going to probably – so here's a question with Darren Waller.
Ferguson.
What's the Quinn Ewers scenario going to be?
Right.
And is Ferguson's challenging for targets in that offense against a tough Chargers secondary? Do you trust Quinn Ewers to get the ball to Darren Waller enough to offset what should be Darren Waller ahead of Ferguson in my eyes? If Tua was in, I wouldn't have a question. I would say Waller all day.
Right, yeah.
Worry about Quinn Ewers just a little bit.
So my concern was that didn't Waller only play like 50-something% of snaps on Monday night? So that would be my concern there. And you could give me the narrative, and again, I stress narrative because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like rookies and targeting tight ends, and that is a fact. Matter of fact, I don't know. What I do know is that the Chargers, as tough as their secondary is, they are, since week 12, 8th in points allowed to the tight end position. And we know the snaps are going to be there for Ferguson. So if there was any safety blanket for Dak Prescott this week, I think it would be Ferguson. And I just trust the snap numbers more. Even though Darren Waller, it's hard to ignore what he does, but if he's not on the field that much, then that's kind of a concern.
That's kind of where I'm at, going into the game where you're trying to make the championship game. I would feel better with Ferguson as my tight end, just because to me, Darren Waller's only really used down in the goal line. So how often is Miami going to get down there with Quinn Ewers is my question.
I mean, he had 8 targets last week.
He did.
Yeah. The thing with Waller, he might not be a full-time player whenever it comes to snaps, but whenever he's on the field, he's running routes. And whenever and that's how we they're not deploying Waller to be a blocker or anything along those lines. They're putting Waller on the field as essentially their wide receiver 2 behind Jalen Waddle is basically the role that he plays. And so, given his role and given how historically bad the Bengals have been against the tight end, I know it did not pay off last week. It is literally the outlier of all outliers. I know it makes no sense, but every other team other than the Ravens have been able to absolutely beat up on the Bengals at the tight end position. And given the lack of weapons behind Jalen Waddle in this offense and the fact that Darren Waller does take up the middle of the field where inexperienced quarterbacks are usually more comfortable targeting. It's just, they not even so much like the tight end position, but just not having to throw at the boundary, throwing off boundary receivers is, they're typically more comfortable working over the middle of the field. I think whenever Waller is out there, he's going to see plenty of targets. And so you're talking about, the second option on a bad offense or the third option on a good offense at that point between Waller and Ferguson. So I would lean Waller, but I get the argument for Ferguson. But I've got Waller higher this week.
Well, there's your, so
it sounds like we're virtually no help at all on that one.
We can talk.
Choose your fighters. Do you want me and Drew, or do you want Kyle and Jorge? Right.
Jorge,
I have a bad leg, so that already puts us at a disadvantage. But other question is Rams, Falcons. For me, it's Falcons.
Yeah.
And then let's get to Aiden's question. Jake Ferguson versus the Chargers, or Theo Johnson versus the Commanders at tight end. It's very close to me. So I just said that the tight end position is the Achilles heel for fantasy versus the Chargers, but I may or may not be talking about Theo Johnson later. So I guess I'll have to abstain from this question.
Yeah, stick around. We'll tell you in a little bit. That's how you get them.
That's a good way to answer that. There you go. That's a good way to answer that.
All right. K-Space 91.
Exposed to, it's like the news networks where they used to do that. You guys, us old people, where they would say, "Is your child exposed to radiation poisoning? Tune in tonight at 10 p.m. where they potentially be in danger." Back to news.
All right, it was back to K Space 91. Welcome back. Full PPR. Pick one wide receiver, one flex between Aaron Jones, Godwin, Romeo Dubs, Jaden Reed, Keyshawn Boutte, and Khalil Shakir.
So I know that Godwin and Reed are my top two receivers out of that group. I just need to see if where Aaron Jones stands compared to the receivers. So I don't know if you guys have an answer off the top of your head for this one while I look and see where that is for me.
So I love Reed for my wide receiver one just because they find ways to manufacture touches, whether it's him being as a receiver or him being used out of the backfield. So you know the attempts are going to be there, the opportunities are going to be there. So he would be my wide receiver one. As far as a flex goes in a full PPR,
I'll still take Aaron Jones.
That's
I just really like exploiting that Giants run D. They've been so bad.
Yep. So it's Aaron Jones and Reed for me.
Yep.
All right.
And you know, honestly, if not just as if we don't need any more reasoning for the Jaden Reed, but if Josh Jacobs, if that knee injury is bad, I mean, he's had back-to-back did not practices, and Christian Watson's limited like he was today. I mean, all signs point to Jaden Reed being highly involved in that offense this week.
Yep. All right. Next one up here, we got Jared Goff or JJ McCarthy. Let's see where
Jared Goof for me.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's hard. It's hard to go against what he's done. Crypto life bags, Godwin or Reed. For me, it's Reed.
I think he was answering that question.
Oh, okay.
I think he was helping us out and giving his thoughts on that question above.
Okay, gotcha. All right, let's see. We got more. Aiden says, "What is a news network?" And shut up, Aiden. We want to talk
Kel's had a couple more here, right below the golf or JJ McCarthy question. He had Jordan Love or JJ McCarthy, and so I would go Love over JJ there personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Brian Thomas or Christian Watson. So Watson might not even play this week. That's something you'll have to keep an eye on. But BTJ is likely going to, or we're gonna talk about BTJ in a little while, aren't we?
We are.
Oh,
we are.
Yeah.
We are. Yep. So BTJ is a guy we're not very high on this week, and if you want to find out why, you just stay tuned. And as soon as we get through these last few questions, we're going to start talking about our past plays, and BTJ is going to be one of those. Just spoiler alert there. So stay tuned for that. Okay, what do we got next? Let's see.
Real quick on this one, Drew, to go back to what we were talking earlier about Galaxy pickers, is he said if you could get Juwan Jordan and drop Luther Burden. I hate dropping Luther Burden, but if you don't have a week 16 or week 17, you don't need Luther Burden because he's probably not going to play this week.
Yeah.
You're playing. Then all you have to do is, unless Matt Donnelly's in your league, all you got to do is battle one other person for Luther Burden next week if he's back. So, coming.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. It doesn't feel good to have to drop Luther Burden, but if that's what you need to do to ensure that you have the Texans backfield locked up, I think you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to our next question here from Kel's 22. Kenneth Walker, Michael Carter, or Jawar Jordan, pick one. It's Jordan for me. Just this matchup just screams opportunity. Walker, again, Charbonnet, Michael Carter.
Assuming that Marks is out.
Yes, assuming Woody Marks is
assuming Woody Marks is out. Yes, correct.
And he'll have that opportunity, correct, from the time frame of the games.
Yeah. I think that those are all Sunday games. It would be if Marks is out, it would be Jordan for me. If Marks is active, then I think I have Michael Carter ahead of. Yep, I got Michael Carter ahead of Walker. So it would be if Woody Marks is active, it's Michael Carter. If Woody Marks is inactive, it's Jordan.
Yeah, and they're both in the 4:00 window, so you're good to watch
Perfect.
that.
All right, next we got another question from Kels.
Colton Parkinson.
See,
He's fired.
I like it. One of the things I was looking up, and then I also saw that Andrew Cooper wrote over at Fantasy Alarm is one of the things that we saw in terms of snap percentages was that he actually played a majority of his snaps last week in line as opposed to in the slot, and we actually saw Ferguson play more in the slot. So the question is, like, was Parkinson just a lucky product of the right space, right time? But as far as being somebody that you can necessarily count on to being deployed in the right scenario, that's one concern. But probably no Devontae Adams. And when you look at some of the efficiency metrics, Kobe Parkinson is like literally right there, right below Devontae Adams in terms of opportunity.
So I mean, he did line up in line more, and a lot of that was that they were deploying 2-3 tight ends at a time once they lost Adams in that game. Right. But Parkinson was still, I think he ran the 6 routes on the team last week. So even though he's lining up in line, he's still very active in the passing game. And the Seahawks defense is really strong, but the one position they struggle against is tight ends. They're tough against quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, but they are vulnerable against the tight end. So I've got Parkinson as a locked in top 10 tight end for me this week. Yeah, I think he's like my tight end 6 or 7.
Yeah, 17 targets in the last 3 weeks and 6 touchdowns in the last 6 games. I know touchdowns aren't sticky, but it's got a little maple syrup feel to it. That's for sure.
The opportunity will be there for him. Yeah, for sure.
I think I'm with you guys as far as Parkinson, but I'm not expecting big numbers. Like, I'm expecting low tight end 1 numbers, like top 10, 11, or in the 10s, 11, 12. I'm just concerned about alignments and who are they going to put in to replace Devontae Adams? Do they still run a lot of 2 tight end sets? Do they change their philosophies? A lot of unknowns here, for me at least. But it's still Parkinson out of the 2 if I had to choose. All right, Kel, switch to Waller or Jake Ferguson. I think we talked about this one in one of the earlier.
We were split. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
let's not bring that back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's not do that again.
Apparently Nate wanted to choose violence and have a tag team match between Drew and Nate and Kyle and myself. Epic fail, or as I like to call him, 3P1C fail. Hey, y'all, what do I do with Walker and Sharp? Surely I can't start them this week versus the Rams. I would not. If you have
I wouldn't want to. Yeah.
But let's say if you didn't have better options, though, let's assume that this is like the, which one would you start out of the 2?
I guess
I
go
Walker
Walker.
for me, but I don't feel great about it.
Okay.
I hope he's not suggesting.
I've got both of them outside of my top. I've got both guys outside of my top 30 running backs. So I really hope you got somebody else you can turn to.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here from Jelly of the Month 231. Stafford in a bad matchup or stream Brissett or Goff 6 points per passing touchdown.
I'd go Jared Goff in this situation. 6-point passing touchdown. Stafford doesn't have Adams in this one.
I'm riding Jacoby beef brisket, man.
Yeah, I am too. With Harrison coming back too this week.
Maybe
he is coming back. Maybe.
Well,
he
practiced, but he's trending.
He was limited in a walkthrough, so we'll see.
Okay.
I mean, even without Marvin Harrison, he's still been, like I said,
he's been a locked and loaded top 12 guy every week. Yeah.
I like Goff, but it's kind of shoot the moon a little bit more for Brissett.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just going to say D's nuts because I don't really like saying D's nuts.
We did talk about it off air. Pittsburgh's secondary is getting better, so good point.
Right. It says, gentlemen, great show. Thanks. Need help. Welcome for being here. He says, need help. Flex, PPR, Gainwell, London, Marks. Don't like Cousins with London. Last time they played, London was a non-factor. We don't even know if London's going to be playing. That is a big
Kyle Pitts season.
Kyle Pitts, yeah. Well, it was last week, right? And then he has a good matchup this week. So
last 3 weeks, he's been fantastic. I'm going Gainwell in that situation myself.
Yeah. It's funny.
Kyle Pitts is purely dependent on if London is active or not. Pitts has like a 15% target share in games where London is active, but he's very involved if London's inactive. So, and London is a walking damn near 8-10 targets every single time he plays. Like they build the offensive game plan around him. Like even Raheem Morris said, the reason Kyle Pitts was drawn up so many plays is we basically gave him the Drake London game plan. Like we treated Kyle Pitts like Drake London this week because we needed somebody because Drake London wasn't out there. So the game you saw Kyle Pitts have, that would usually be the Drake London game plan whenever he's active. And so I would have a hard time not playing Drake London as active. I know it's a risk because we haven't seen him in a few weeks, but if he's out there, I don't know how you don't play him personally. That's just me, though.
We're going to have time to figure that out because they both are at 3:00. Phillies, Pittsburgh, and Atlanta. Those two matchups both are at 3. So we know who will be in. If London's out, you can pivot to Gainwell. If London's in, Drake London is the answer.
Marks would be my pivot over from London.
My question on Marks is, let's say Marks does play. How much do we think Jordan's actually going to play behind him, though? Is he going to get some more looks than we want to see in that backfield?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think Marks gets every single touch, but Marks was dominating the touches before he got hurt, and then they leaned on Jordan once that happened. So I don't know why they would go away from that if Marks is active, but it's a good point, though. I mean, Jordan did look good once he got the snap, so it's a fair concern that the coaching staff might want to get a longer look at him to see what they got.
I do like Gainwell, Nate. I heard you say Gainwell for a second. I do like the fact that when you're looking at between him and Warren, Warren has more of the attempts, but Gainwell has the higher target share between the two running backs, and so for the PPR aspect,
yeah, it's kind of funny. Like Jaylen Warren was always like the savvy pass catching guy in the Pittsburgh backfield that we all loved. And now basically Jaylen Warren is like the Najee Harris for this.
Yes, that's exactly what I was about to
say. It's the new Jaylen Warren. Yeah, it's wild. Real quick, Jorge, before we move over to any other questions, I want to throw this up here real quick. Crypto Life Bag, shout out to you, man. No need at all to apologize for the questions. That's what we're here for, is to help. I can speak for all of us whenever I say that the most fun we have on this show is getting to answer these questions and interact with you guys. So no apologies needed, but definitely appreciate the very generous $5 dono, and we appreciate your support, man. So thank you for that. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to drop them, and don't feel bad for doing so.
We live for this.
Do you want to keep going, or do we do pass? Like, how do you want to keep going, Drew?
Yeah, let's stop here. Do some. Well, no, let me hang on just a second before we move into it. I do want to at least get to his questions here. So 12-man going against HM, Bijan, Etienne. Holy,
yeah,
that's a tough lineup to go with. Me, I've got Wilson, Sutton, Coker, Downs, Corum, Monongai, Marks, Carter. Wow. Gene T, Warren, Bowers, defense loaded, 2 quarterbacks, Burrow, Mayfield. Do I have a chance? Yeah, you do have a chance.
His wide receivers, he goes on to say the opponent he's playing has Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Quentin Johnson. Okay. And with the concerns of Rashee Rice, I mean, that's kind of, I worry about him playing. I do, just a little bit. We saw him take couple nasty hits in back-to-back weeks.
Well, he's in the protocol now.
That raises Worthy up just a little bit, but
yeah,
I still think that. I mean, you got Drew. You're getting ready to talk about it. Between Wilson, Sutton, Coker, and Downs, I think that I still like your wide receivers from the concerns I have with his opponents.
Like Etienne is going to have a tough
and like I know that your running backs might not, and you might not have like the name value at running back that he does, but you can still piece together a really solid running back room. Like you've made really smart pickups between Marks and Carter. I think both of those guys could have solid weeks this week. I know Genty's been disappointing. Warren's in kind of a backfield, but you might not have the name value at running back, but I think that you can still piece together a couple really solid starts to keep yourself competitive. And you've got 2 really solid quarterbacks too, which will always keep yourself afloat in those 2 QB leagues. So,
and you never know, Crypto.
Yeah, I think
this could be a game where, Bijan's going to get his, but maybe Tyler Algier steals a couple from him like we've seen before in this season. So hang in there. I know it looks bad right now, but really it's just Bijan and Achane because like Jorge said earlier, Etienne's in a very tough matchup. I don't think he's going to do what he did last week. So hang in there. It could be a Tyler Algier week. You never know.
Very much.
Okay, you want to keep going then, Drew? You want to keep going through these questions? Or what do you want to do?
Yeah, it looks like they've started to slow down a little bit. So let's knock out the rest of these that we have started, and then we can get into pass.
Okay. So we got J Melly 6978 asking, needs a quarterback and a flex in the PPR, T-Law or Nix. And then the flex options are Goddard, Brees Hall, Rashee Rice, or Luther Burden. Well, the last two, I doubt they're actually going to be playing. So that kind of leaves then Goddard or Brees. Is it crazy? I'm leaning Goddard in this situation. Like I'm kind of pulling a Rhett Manuel and kind of fading Brees Hall in general. I think the Commanders also, when you look at tight ends, they're sixth in points allowed, averaging per game since week 12, 20.3 points per game on average to the tight end position. So that would be my flex. I'd go Nix and Goddard in this situation with Rice and Burden not playing, assuming they're not playing.
Yeah, I know it's going to suck to set Lawrence after he just had that huge game, but I don't think you can play him against Denver whenever Nix has the better matchup and has also been productive. So I agree on that front. I would go Nix. I would still play Brees over Goddard. I wouldn't be chasing the touchdowns there. Goddard has been, which I mean, a lot of tight ends are very touchdown dependent, and it's tough to trust on a week-to-week basis. Whereas Brees, that he's getting the touches. It might not always be pretty, but I think New Orleans can be beat, even though the run defense has been a little bit better recently. But I would go Brees, or if Rice is active, I would play Rice. But it would be tough for me to flex Goddard over Brees personally. But I get what you're saying, though.
All right, let's go to the next one. This is a continuation of his previous one. All right, so Kel's 22. A.D. Mitchell or Ricky Pearsall? Kyle, you want to start with that one?
I'll probably go with Ricky Pearsall over A.D. Mitchell. I don't know if I could trust A.D.
I don't think Pearsall's going to play this week, is he?
Oh,
Am I crazy? Didn't he get an? Didn't he
get
injured
played a little
week?
bit last? Oh, did he get re-injured again?
I think so.
Look up here on the interwebs.
Yeah, he aggravated his knee. He aggravated his knee injury, and his status is to be determined this week.
Okay, well then that might answer your question right there. You might have to go with A.D. Mitchell. If you got another player there, Kels, hit us back up.
All right, let's go to our next question here from Kels. Jalen Coker or Jordan Addison in half PPR? Let me see what I got here.
Drew's a Coker. I
think
he's going to take
a cokehead.
Addison.
I do love me some Jalen Coker, but Jordan Addison against that Giants secondary is too good.
It's too juicy, right? Yeah.
I have Addison by 6-7 spots higher.
All right, let's go to Mr. ADW3, Michael Carter, Ashton Janty, and then Parkinson or Kelsey. Nate, you want to start with the tight end question here with Parkinson or Kelsey?
It's probably the trickiest one because a part of me says by the lack of weapons in Kansas City with the injury to Rashee Rice and just, addition by subtraction, I would lean Kelsey, but Colby Parkinson has been so good, and the same thing can apply there. Without Devontae Adams, if he's already got 17 targets in the last 3 weeks, what's making me think he won't be on that same path to 5 to 7 targets? I'm going to still lean Kelsey just because I do trust Minshew enough that if I had to pick right now, which I guess I do because you're asking me to, but it's not by much. Someone wants to tell me, like, you take Parkinson. I've been flip-flopping them back and forth. I legitimately have them like between 7-8, 8-9, 9-8, and I want to go Kelsey mostly probably because of my heart, and I think that if they're going to lean on somebody, there's a better likelihood, a non-zero sum chance that Kelsey has productive week, more so than Colby Parkinson's just phased out of the game, a one-off situation. So I'm going to lean Kelsey. Drew, are you leaning Parkinson or Kelsey?
I'm leaning Kelsey too. I have them literally back to back. I think Kelsey is a better bet to get. I think Kelsey has a safer floor with targets, and I think Parkinson has a higher chance of getting in the end zone. But I would rather bet on I'd rather bet on the targets than bet on if somebody's going to get in the end zone or not. So that wouldn't have me lean Kelsey.
Does factoring in playing for something come into your thought at all?
It doesn't for me, only because, and it's interesting you say that. I literally saw a clip today talking about the Kelsey brothers had the podcast together, and Jen asked Travis, what's it like now? Like, this is kind of uncharted territory for you.
Yeah.
You usually don't play in games that don't matter, and Travis gave a really, really well thought out answer of just that, that we're playing a game that people dream of playing, and that there's a sense of pride that you go out there and you play. To the fullest, regardless of what, if it appears there's something on the line or not, that there's just a sense of pride that you go out there and you do what you do, and you do what you're paid to do, and you do what other people dream and wish that they could do, And so I don't think Kelsey's going to go out there and mill it. He doesn't seem like somebody that's going to go out there and mill it in just because the Chiefs have been eliminated. So it's a fair question, and for some people, I think that would be a concern, but I don't think Travis is one of those guys.
Because I could also see if they were maybe trying to spoil another team at playoff aspirations, then maybe they play up a little bit more. But they're playing the Titans, who they're not playing for anything either.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I asked that question.
Yeah, that's fair.
We got another one here. The second part of this question. Sorry. Michael Carter or Ashton Jeanty?
Yeah, this sucks, man. The fact that this even and it is a very fair question. It sucks that this even has to be a question because it shouldn't be. But the Raiders' offense is just so atrocious, and they're playing against the Houston Texans. I have Jeanty one spot ahead of Michael Carter. I literally have them back to back, running back 25 and running back 26. And so I'm not going to blame you if you go with Michael Carter. Jeanty's been under double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight weeks now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would go Michael Carter.
Yeah. So I've got him back to back. This should not be a toss-up question, but it is.
All right. Then we have Badger with a question here. Superflex, Minshew, Ewers, or Cook? Minshew.
I already had a tough one, so
make sure you keep a barf bag close by and take
Good
off.
Lord.
Yeah.
And these teams are going to the fantasy championship game.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to scrap and claw. Is what you got to do.
Yeah, I love it.
And then there's a comment I wanted to throw up here. Crypto Life Bag says, really appreciate the live right there. It's gonna be a fun challenge. Awesome. Let us come back next week. Let us know how you did.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
we're right back here same time next week. So please let us know how it went.
All right. Should we get into our pass then, Drew? I think we caught up with all our questions.
All right. Yeah, I think we're caught up now. We appreciate all the questions and engagement, guys, for real. I mean, like I said, this is why we do this. So please keep them coming. So we talked about our smash plays for the week. Now we're going to get into our pass plays. So these are the guys we're looking at the Fantasy Pros Week 16 expert consensus rankings, and we're finding players that are inside the top 15 quarterbacks, inside the top 20 running backs, top 35 wide receivers, or the top 12 tight ends that we think could end up disappointing fantasy owners for Week 16. And so there's been a lot of quarterback talk in these questions, a lot of really difficult superflex questions. One question folks probably didn't think that they would have in front of them is should I be worried about Dak Prescott this week? And Jorge, there you have an argument that folks might need to be a little bit worried. So talk to us about Dak this week.
Yeah, again, it's this Chargers matchup. It's just really difficult all around for quarterbacks and skill players. ECR has him as the quarterback 6th. Over the past months, again, looking at recent trends, the Chargers have allowed the third fewest passing yards, points per game, second fewest passing touchdowns, lowest QBR to the quarterback position. During that same time period, Dak has the second highest turnover-worthy throw percentage amongst quarterbacks having at least 100 passing attempts, and his QB4 in interceptions during that period. Look at the quarterbacks that the Chargers have played the past few weeks. Mahomes, 14 points. Hurts, 4.4. Geno, 13, which, whatever. T-Law, 16. All right. So, 3 out of the 4 that we actually care about, they've kept them in check. And again, it just, when you're taking away all of the skill options for a team, and then on top of that, Dak is basically, YOLO balling it to George Pickens, and he's putting himself in bad passing situations, even though the passing volume is there. That is very concerning for a team that's really peaking defensively at this time of the year for the Chargers.
Yeah, Jorge, I am in a semifinal game myself with Dak Prescott, and I don't feel comfortable starting him myself. I mean, when looking at the last 5 weeks, the Chargers defense ranks second lowest against quarterbacks in scheduled adjusted fantasy points allowed, allowing limited quarterbacks to 8.1 fantasy quarterbacks per game. I mean, guys I like lower than him in rankings, you might still be able to find them on the waiver wire, but I would feel more comfortable starting like C.J. Stroud against the Raiders, Tyler Shuck home against the Jets, and, my boy, J.J. McCarthy against the New York Giants. I actually feel comfortable starting them over Dak Prescott. I'm very concerned with that Chargers defense, but I would say if you're looking at the waiver wire, hold on to Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
because if you can get by the next week, they, of course, get Washington in the final week.
Yeah. Dak might very well lose some folks, some leagues this week if you have to start him. But if you survive this week, though, he could end up winning you a fantasy championship next week. So that's a great call. That even though he might have some risk this week, he's definitely a guy you don't want to drop because if you do survive and your opponent picks up Dak and plays him against you in week 17, that's going to feel really, really bad. So just look and see if you have better options, but don't rush to drop Dak. I think those are both really, really good points.
Can I ask a question real quick, and maybe this could help fantasy managers with little game theory? At this point, with injuries being what they are and people being available, starting options available on the waiver wire, at this point, you have a week, you get through this week, you're in the fantasy championship. Do you get rid of your handcuffs and get people who have starter potential, or do you hold on to your handcuffs, or does that matter by position?
Well, wouldn't that, by definite, from what you just said, get rid of your handcuffs? I mean, starter potential is what technically.
Yeah, but like what I mean is like it would take like an injury for a handcuff to then take a starting role versus there being actual starters available on the waiver wire that have higher upside matchups.
That's tricky because I think
the only way I'm dropping a handcuff for somebody on the waiver is if I know I'm going to immediately turn around and put them in my starting lineup for that week. If they're also just going to end up sitting on the bench, I would rather hold on to a handcuff than pick up somebody that is just going to, keep the same bench spot. So if they're not an immediate plug and play, I'm not picking them up at this point.
So basically, if that player's better, you're going to do it.
Right.
Yeah. And if they're not going to go into my lineup, I'd rather just have a bench full of handcuffs to try to get ahead of, if there were an unfortunate injury, you have a lottery chance of getting ahead of the waivers for the next week by already having them stashed, whether it's my own handcuff or somebody else's. At this time of the year, I want my bench to be full of handcuff running backs. And if you have defenses in your leagues, I have no problem stashing multiple defenses so you don't have to compete for those on the waiver wire as well. But like the wide receiver 45 that you've been holding on to in hopes that he's going to finally earn more targets, you can drop those guys at this point of the year.
So then one of the things I like to reference a lot is what you said back in the preseason and what you constantly preach as far as handcuffs. Get the other person's handcuff. Don't worry about your handcuff. Mm-hmm. Heading into semifinals, do you still follow that narrative, or do you switch it to like, I really want my handcuff now because now it's all in the line if I make it to the championship in week 17?
It's all dependent on the backfield. If I know that there's a clear guy that's going to be the guy, which most of those handcuffs are already rostered at this point of the year, but like if for some reason there's a Blake Corum, a Tyler Algier, those type of guys to where if the guy in front of them goes down, they're getting everything. I want those guys rostered regardless of, if it's my handcuff or not. If it's a situation where, if the starting running back goes down, then it's going to be a 50-50 split of like JCM was kind of a good example this week. Like Chris Rodriguez goes down, the work's going to be split up between JCM and Jeremy McNichols, right? And it'll all depend on situations and things like that. And JCM paid off against a bad New York Giants run defense. But if they would have had a much more difficult matchup, JCM might not have been that appealing as just a guy that's splitting the backfield. So I think it's dependent on who the handcuff is. But if you can forecast a situation to where you think that if the guy in front of them goes down, that they would get at least the majority of the touches, those are the guys that I want to roster. So it's dependent, by the player.
Like a Jawar Jordan, for example.
Yeah, we saw whenever Woody Marks went down, we saw that Jawar Jordan basically got handed the backfield. So at that point, even if Woody Marks is active this week, Jawar Jordan is a handcuff that I want to stash, because if something does happen to Marks again, Houston has already showed us that they're willing to turn the backfield over to Jordan.
All right. The little game theory, the game behind the game for those fantasy managers out there looking how to handle situations. Mr. ADW3 says, thanks, fellas. Thank you. Appreciate it. Speaking
of a running back you might need a handcuff for, and this is a backfield where I don't know if there's a good answer for who that handcuff is. Nate, you have some worries about the leader of the Denver Broncos backfield. So talk to us a little bit about why you're hesitant on RJ Harvey this week.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter who the backup is. It's not about the team concept or the team dynamic as far as how Denver's going to operate. It strictly focuses on the defense. And it was 7 days ago this week or today that I talked about why Breece Hall was a bad play. Is the Jacksonville Jaguars are a fantastic defense against the running backs. And, look at the last 3 weeks. RJ Harvey's he's had a great run over the last 3 weeks. RB7 back-to-back weeks. And then, RB25 last week against the Packers. Unironically, it was the Packers that deflated a little of the juice after the 2 back-to-back performances in top 10. Possibly it should have been seen when you consider the last 2 blow-up weeks that he had were against Washington and Vegas. So it's not that RJ Harvey's a bad running back. I'm not trying to say that. It's I get my expectations up a little bit by seeing this elite performance, and then we realize a lot of it's been touchdown dependent. And when it's touchdown dependent against the Jags, that's oil and water. They don't necessarily jive because the Jags are so stingy against the opposing running backs. I worry about RJ Harvey needing a touchdown. And yet I say this, and then last week, of course, they give up a touchdown to Isaiah Davis. But that, unlikely scenarios. I'd rather roll the dice and assume that the Jags are going to do what the Jags have always done. Jorge, you weren't here last week. I could go through narrative-wise and talk about how if you had to guess the only other running back that's had 60 yards rushing against the Jags, well, I shouldn't say running back. I should say player in the NFL, because there's only been 2. It's been Jonathan Taylor and Patrick Mahomes. And I don't expect to see RJ Harvey getting into that first running back to get 70, 80 yards. I do see tough sledding this week. Plus, he had a rib injury at the end of the game. So I don't believe that he's going to miss time. RJ Harvey's not going to miss any time. He's going to play. But they did sign Cody Schrader. So there's indicators that make me think, man, does Denver really have to play? They've already clinched. They're obviously playing for seeding now at this point. But I could very easily see a scenario where they get up. If they do, and Jacksonville's a good team too. I think it's going to be an actual good matchup to watch. But I worry that RJ Harvey's not going to be a pivotal piece of that game, especially when it comes to the fantasy playoffs, where you need him to be your, RB1 or 2, more likely flex territory there. So temper expectations.
Yeah, I love that call, because you for running backs that have had at least 30 attempts since over the past 3 weeks, only 5 have gotten 100% of their snaps from inside the 5-yard line. Dowdle, Henry, Harvey, Breece Hall, Devin Neal. You look at the touchdown rates, RJ Harvey third, which goes into what you were saying as far as touchdown or bust. The issue here is, if we were talking a Corum or a Williams who have 83 and 85% success rate running the ball, this matchup wouldn't scare me as much. RJ Harvey's success rate, 57.1% against a tough matchup where you're just touchdown dependent. That I see the fade situation there.
Yeah, and Drew, you quickly put up there from Crypto where he added some narrative, and I do want to point out that that's while many people think that you win your fantasy league at the draft, you win your fantasy league based
Right.
on luck or unluck, whatever the case may be. I'm here to tell you that a high percentage, is it 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%? I don't know. But the waivers, staying diligent and being active will win you more leagues than drafting the best team in projections when Yahoo or whoever it is sends you your A+ or B+, whatever.
They still do that?
Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like a kiss of death, where if you get like an A grade,
Yeah.
you pretty much know.
And it
you're
basically
gonna
just
lose.
goes off consensus. Like if you don't take
Yeah.
the player at the top of the board, you're going to get an F.
Yes,
Yeah,
I've had an
that
NFBC,
really
which is a National Fantasy Baseball Championship League that I drafted. And at the end, they give you your grade, and then they actually tell you this expert thinks that you are going to be this good because they agree with these 4 picks. Guys, I've had a team I drafted where it projected me to finish dead last, and I only had, and you know who the analyst that hated my draft was the most? Me.
Who's that?
It said my own hate your draft. So that
That's
didn't
great.
tell you anything. Nothing else does. None of that
That's
shit
awesome.
means nothing. I was
Doesn't
like,
mean a thing.
it was my favorite thing I saw though.
Yeah, that's great. No, so Epic Fail, this isn't something we've talked about, but I think that this is a perfect example of what I was just saying with it all depends on the backfield, on if you want to, roster the handcuff, where this I think Estime is the answer for me, just because he whenever Nil went down, he did get one less carry than Hull, but Estime was involved in the passing game. But I think if we don't have Devin Nil, if we don't have Alvin Kamara as expected, I think it's going to be a split between Estime and Hull, and then you've got 2 running backs splitting work in a bad offense to where you might not want to start either one of them. If I have to roster one in the league, like in the deeper leagues where I was wanting to pick up these guys, I prioritize Estime, but I don't really know if there's a good answer to that question either way.
I'd go Estime in this situation too.
Same.
So.
Okay, so it looks like we had a clean sweep for Estime, but I guess only time will tell if there even is a good answer. All right, so Kyle, we teased your pass play earlier, and we have edged the people long enough. It is time to relieve themselves, and we're going to let you tell the folks why you are lower on BTJ than consensus this week.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm fading Brian Thomas Jr. at ECR wide receiver 28 this week against that Denver Broncos, man. And I feel like he's been the most passed player this year, hasn't he? Drew, I think you've taken him before. But I think Rhett has too as well. I just feel like he's just always on here. But everyone knows how good the Broncos defense is, so I won't go on about that. But he will be matched up on Pat Surtain, and per PFF, he's only allowed a ratio of 51% of catches. He's only allowed 1 touchdown on the season as well. I know that's not really sticky, but second on the defense in pass breakups since, Pat Surtain, they don't really go to him that often. He's only got 49 targets, but he has the 9 breakups there. Smartly, they don't go to Surtain. Riley Moss leads the team in this category with 11 pass breakups, but he's been targeted nearly double the amount of Pat Surtain. So it would be very wise of Trevor Lawrence to go ahead and maybe attack Riley Moss in this one and avoid Surtain as much as humanly possible. But even as a defensive unit as a whole for the Broncos, Denver is one of the best defensive units in the league at containing opposing wideouts in man coverage, which they play the 4th most at 38.1% of the time. They only allow 0.3 points per dropback in man, which is right up there with Kansas City at 0.29 for the best. Very elite number, an elite defense to say the least. And I just don't see a happy ending here for the Jacksonville offense all around. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you worked that in there. Yeah, no, it's the Surtain matchup is brutal, man. It really is. And then even whenever the Jags tried to move BTJ into the slot and get him away from Surtain, it doesn't even get any easier in the slot either. The entire Broncos secondary is just a brutal matchup, and BTJ and Lawrence have never really been on that great of a page. They haven't really been on the same page anyway. So like they even struggle to connect in good matchups. So I completely agree with you. I think that it's tough to trust them in this bad matchup as well. Crypto, man,
Thank you, brother.
you are far too kind. YouTube are some thieves, but you are certainly very generous with your money, man. And we appreciate the $5 dono. We appreciate all of your support, and we appreciate you hanging out with us tonight, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the questions and for being interactive in the chat. Not just asking questions, but even helping us answer some questions in the chat. We appreciate it, man. So thank you very much. All right, so I'll round out the pass here. I'm going to stick with the wide receiver position, and I'm going to go over to Washington. Jorge, I promise I did not do this on purpose because you were going to be here, even though I love to do this kind of thing with people on the screen. So while it might not have been on purpose, I am going to enjoy this.
You enjoy it, yeah.
I am a little bit worried about Debo this week, but I don't want to make it seem like it's all doom and gloom, though. So I'm not going to act like that there's no positive to this because Washington played their first game without Zach Ertz last week, and Debo ended up leading the Commanders with 5 targets. He was still outproduced by Terry McLaurin. McLaurin was more productive with the targets that he saw. He only had 1 less target. But while Debo slightly led in targets last week, since the Commanders' Week 12 bye, whenever McLaurin came back, he's out-targeted Debo 24-18 during that time frame, and he's had more receptions and more receiving yards over that span. So I think it's pretty fair to say that Debo is the clear second option in this passing offense behind McLaurin right now, especially with Ertz out for the year now. And I'm not sure if the second option in this passing offense is going to be a very fantasy-friendly role in Week 16, considering the matchup against Philadelphia. Over the last 5 weeks, they've been the second most difficult matchup for fantasy receivers based on schedule-adjusted fantasy points giving up to the receiver position over that time frame. And if that's not bad enough, to make matters worse, Debo is a primarily slot receiver. He lines up in the slot around 75% of his snaps on the season, and the Eagles have been giving up a league-low 4.8 fantasy points per game over the last 6 weeks to slot receivers. And look, credit where credit's due. Cooper DeJean has been an absolute nightmare for slot receivers this year. He's giving up just 0.19 fantasy points per route run on the season, which is an extremely low number if you're not familiar with fantasy points per route run whenever it comes to the cornerback position. Cooper DeJean's been one of the best, not just of slot corners, but just corners in general. He has given slot receivers fits the entire year. And so Debo should still have some targets. I mean, he's going to be the clear number 2 option behind McLaurin. There's a chance that this game could get away from Washington if Philadelphia can remember how to play offense this week. So maybe there's some garbage time there where Debo can make up some ground where they're just playing prevent defense and Debo can get some underneath targets and, at least in PPR leagues, give you a decent day. But the reality is Week 16, you're looking to make it to the championship. You're not looking for just a decent low floor day. You're looking for guys that are going to give you some upside this week, and I don't think that Debo has that. So given the matchup in front of him, the fact that he's the clear second option for backup quarterback Marcus Mariota, Debo, he's a pass for me this week.
That might be your most pass player, I think. Debo. I 2 out of the last 4 weeks. I know he's been your best.
Yeah, that's 2 out of the last 4 weeks now. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. He's had some brutal matchups, and hey, for what it's worth, not to say that this is going to be a good call this time, but the last time I said Debo was gonna disappoint, he did end up disappointing. So I don't know. Maybe it's a matchup thing. Maybe it's just because I still have hate for him from whenever he played for San Francisco and he used to give the Rams fits every single time we played him. Maybe that's has something to do with it. I don't know.
I will say he will give, for me, Derrick Henry a run for his money. Like we all like the get off me stiff arms from Derrick Henry. Did you see what he did to Tyler Lockett during the game last week? Tyler Lockett literally got into Cooper DeJean's face. Sorry, I should have specified Cooper DeJean. He got into Cooper DeJean's face, and Cooper DeJean just went like this and knocked him to the ground, and he didn't get flagged at all. It was hilarious.
That's that's probably the most contact that Tyler Lockett's seen in a game in 12 years. Because usually he just catches the ball and falls down. That's probably the first time he's been hit in a decade. So that might have shook Lockett up a little bit.
And I don't think he was flopping. I think Cooper DeJean literally was that strong and just completely knocked him to the ground. It was great.
Cooper DeJean's a dude.
Yeah, he is. All
okay,
right,
let's get back to these questions.
Half PPR, set the lineup. Quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, tight end, and a flex. Let's get to the quarterback first. Purdy or Nix?
I've got Purdy higher.
I do too.
Yep, me too.
Yep, let's go with Purdy. Then we need 2 wide receivers between Sutton, Michael Wilson, Marv, Egbuka, BTJ.
It's hard to ignore Michael Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not making that mistake again.
It's Sutton. It's Sutton and then one of the Cardinals receivers. Like it feels like a no-brainer, Michael Wilson, but like Marvin Harrison Jr. We had this scenario just a few weeks ago. Like early in the season, I think Marv missed like weeks 10 and weeks 11, and then he came back in week 12. I don't know if those are the exact dates, but I know earlier this season he missed 2 weeks, came back, and immediately saw like 7 or 8 targets and was the number 2 option behind Trey McBride right off the bat immediately again. And so I'm not going to sit here and tell you Michael Wilson is a set it and forget it type of guy if Marv is active. I do think that makes the situation a lot more complicated. But I think the clear answer is Sutton and one of the Cardinals receivers. But if Marv is active, I'd be lying if I said I knew for sure. I'd be lying if I said I knew for sure who the right answer was for that. But I would probably go back to Marv if it was me. I understand if you don't want to do that and you want to continue to ride with Michael Wilson, though, because he has been tremendous across the stretch. But it makes it tough, man, because Marv literally stepped right back in the last time he missed a couple games due to injury and was right back at and where he had been the entire year in the pecking order.
It's so funny you mentioned that, Drew, because when I was looking at the pass plays, I was like, I saw immediately stuck out was Michael Wilson, wide receiver 7. He's like 6 or 7. And I'm like, this is a smash pass right here. There's no way he's top 5, right? But then I started looking at it. I'm like, God, if Marv doesn't play, this guy really could be top 5.
Yeah, he'll be a no doubt top 10 receiver for me if Marv's inactive again. So like if we just assume that Marvin Harrison Jr. is inactive this week, the top 2 wide receivers is very easily Sutton and Michael Wilson for me. I know at the beginning of the year you probably thought it would be Egbuka with the way he started out, or BTJ with where we were drafting him in the fantasy drafts, but we saw how it's worked out with BTJ. And then Egbuka, he's just been trending in the wrong direction now that everybody's getting healthy. You know, it's kind of the concern we had with Egbuka coming into the season with all the target competition, but then the season got here and nobody was healthy except for Egbuka. And so it made things a little bit easier. But now that Mike Evans is getting healthy, Chris Godwin's running the most routes of any of these guys on the team, it really complicates things a lot. So I do think Sutton or one of the Cardinals receivers is the right answer there. As far as running back,
it's Bijan,
Etienne, Etienne.
Is Etienne the flex over Egbuka / one of the other receivers? And I don't know, because like we're saying, I trust Etienne's floor to be higher, but it's really just
volume. You trust his volume.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Especially that we know Bashal Tutin's not going to be there. So like this is Etienne's backfield. So I think it's Bichon and Etienne is the 2 running backs, and then Etienne is the flex, and then I'm going Parkinson at tight end over Warren.
Yep. Agreed.
Man, that's so sad, isn't it?
It is. that wasn't how things were supposed to go. Okay, so we talked about our smash plays. We talked about our pass plays. The next segment, we're not going to go through and give our analysis on each of these picks. I will just give you a rundown. But our next segment is our pop or flop. And basically what this is we're looking at upside plays outside of the top 100 in the Fantasy Pros Week 16 flex ranking. So these are guys that are like, we're talking about like your borderline top 50 running backs, your borderline top 40 top 50 wide receivers, top 40 running backs, top 15 tight ends, the deeper guys that you might need somebody. So for pop or flop, Jorge, do you have an intro for us?
Do I?
So hopefully they're popping. Hopefully that's good music. Jorge, he was highlighting Theo Johnson this week against the Minnesota Vikings, tied in 15 in the ECR, but his usage recently suggests that might need to be a little bit higher. Nate had Kanata Mumpfield as his highlight for pop or flop. He's the ECR wide receiver 97, but is the most likely benefactor of the Devontae Adams injury. He should be the next man up as far as receivers go in that wide receiver room over the likes of Jordan Whittington and Tutu Atwell. I don't know how I could possibly forget his name. The Rams paid him $10 million to do absolutely nothing this year. But Mumpfield he's been that next man up even behind Adams whenever he was healthy, so he should be the benefactor. Kyle picked Keyshawn Boutte. It ain't your booty, it's your booty. Wide receiver 47 in the ECR against Baltimore. We know that Drake Maypat, he spreads the ball around as much as anybody, but Boutte is that big play guy. And then I have Matthew Golden as my pop or flop, and that is it is contingent on Christian Watson missing the game. But if Christian Watson's inactive, I think that Matthew Golden could play that field stretching role that Watson has played, giving some of their overlapping skill sets there. So he's at wide receiver 65 against Chicago. So if you need if you're a heavy underdog this week, if you need some guys with some upside, we've got Theo Johnson at tight end, Mumpfield, Boutte, and Matthew Golden at receiver as some pop or flop guys that could end up popping this week. Okay, we don't have any other questions. One thing that I do want to talk about before we get out of here is our friends over at Fast Draft. And so the it's coming to a close, but Fast Draft is not coming to a close by any means. They still have some games you can play. You can get in on the Flex 6 Frenzy where you can do 10 teams, 6-round game where you pick your running backs, receivers, or tight ends in a 6-round 20-second clock. You pick your best 6 in PPR scoring for the Sunday slate and profit. You can do this quick 6 super slam where you're picking 6 guys for the Sunday games. No salary cap, no problem. You pick your best 6 and make it happen over at Fast Draft. For those of you guys that might not be playing in any Week 16 games, maybe your fantasy season came to an end a little bit earlier than you would have liked, you can still scratch that itch over at Fast Draft. So make sure to go check those guys out. Okay, let's see. I appreciate you catching on to some of these, Moggs. I've seen you catching on to some of my puns tonight. So shout out to you, man. All right, we don't have any other questions. For those of you that are still hanging out with us, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm about to hit us with an outro, so you guys got a couple seconds to get those last minute questions in, but hopefully our smash or pass picks helped you out tonight for our smash plays. Jorge had Lab McConkey, Nate had DJ Moore, Kyle had Michael Carter, and then I had the Texans running backs, whoever ends up being active between Woody Marks or Joe Jordan. Our pass plays, Jorge had Dak Prescott, Nate RJ Harvey, Kyle Brian Thomas Jr., and then I had Deebo Samuel. And then for pop or flop, if you guys are looking for some upside, we've got Theo Johnson, Kanata Mumpfield, Keyshawn Boutte, and Matthew Golden. So, fellas, Nate, any parting thoughts before we get out of here?
No, good luck.
Good luck indeed. Kyle, any parting words, anything you want to plug or anything before we get out of here?
No, just good luck. Like Nate said, let's get you to the championship and then come back next week, of course, and we'll try to get you to win the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
Damn straight. Jorge, Bossman, any final words for us?
Yeah, so make sure you head over to fantasyandframes.com, check out our rankings. They should be finalized Friday because we got the Saturday matchups, so look forward to that.
Yep.
If you still need some help on your waiver wire, whether it's on offense / DST or for IDP, Aiden puts together our offense and DST waiver wire articles. Gary Davenport puts together our IDP waiver wire articles. Head over to Fantasy and Frames, check it out today. Joe Harlow does our IDP plays and fades. Rhett Manuel does our plays and fades. And what sets us apart from a lot of the other sites for the fantasy football playoffs is that we're not just going to give you a play and a fade or a starter or sit. We're going to give you recommendations based off of the scenario you find yourself. So we're going to give you some floor plays, some ceiling plays, and some boomer bust plays at each position. So we're talking, all the skill positions on offense, all the ones on defense. So those should be posted tomorrow. So look forward to that. Then, of course, you can catch Nate, myself, Andy Behrens, and Assorted Company. Kyle, you'll be there, right, on Sunday for the Sunday FIF pregame show from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, getting you ready for semifinals week.
Love that. Love that. And I can't stress enough, guys, if there's start sit questions, anything like that you think of, heading into the weekend, just go to fantasyframes.com and check our rankings. At the end of the day, that's where we're pulling these, whenever we're answering these questions, we're pulling our rankings to decide who we would start, who we would sit anyway. So if you have a question, I can't speak for these guys, but I know I update my rankings before the Thursday game, and then since we have Saturday games, I'll update them again before the Saturday games, and then update them again Sunday morning, before each set of games kick off. And so you can always find our updated rankings over on the Fantasy and Frames website. And then we're all also active on Twitter. Some do a better job than others. Kyle, shout out to you. But so you can find Nate at Nate Markham. You can find Jorge at Jorge B. Edwards. I'm at Drew3MR. And then Kyle over at KZ1180. Kyle does a great job every Sunday morning. He grabs his cup of coffee. He drops a tweet, says, hey, hit me with your start sit questions. And then he answers as many as he can up to kickoff. And so, be on the lookout for that. If you're not following these guys here on the screen with me, you should be. So go fix that. And then you can hit us up on Twitter if you have questions too. So just keep all that in mind. Check out the website, check the rankings there. And Crypto, again, man, appreciate all of your support. Appreciate you being here with us tonight. Thank you again for the very kind donations, and then just for your participation too, aside for that. All of you guys that were joining us tonight, we appreciate it. We're Fourth and Frames. We will be back again next week. Hopefully you will still have fantasy football matchups to care and worry about, and you'll be back with us. We'll be back to do Smash or Pass and Pop or Flop all over again for championship week. But until then, for Nate, Jorge, and Kyle, I'm Drew. Toodles.